Hey there, welcome to Craft Central Designs. Today I'm sharing with you very detailed instruction on how to create this adorably cute scarecrow. Perfect to add to or to complement your autumn decor. This very detailed, very cute scarecrow can be made as a boy or a girl scarecrow with as much or as little detail as you prefer, using a plain muslin stuffed doll form from Hobby Lobby. This one has so much design potential as well as materials and color options. Oh my goodness, this is a fun project and certain to add exceptional cuteness to your fall decor. This is a very detailed tutorial chocked full of crafting skill, instruction, and options. So sit back and enjoy, and I hope you feel inspired while doing so. Welcome to my channel today. If you're not currently a subscriber, I hope you will consider becoming one. Give this video a thumbs up if you would, if you enjoy this tutorial. And as always, leave me your questions and comments. I'm happy to reply and to answer any questions. Okay, let's get busy creating this very charming, adorable, and very cute scarecrow. Let's take a look at the detail. We're going to be creating a hat, obviously with embellishment. Now, this can be less embellished if you want to do a boy scarecrow. The face obviously is cute for either, and of course the raffia hair. Now, I created a kind of a apron dress that goes over a top and a bottom or pants for this scarecrow. So you can make this a boy scarecrow by simply not creating the apron and just including the bib. So I'll explain more about that, but even if you wanted to make a pair, a boy and a girl, I'm going to show you how you can do either or. To create your scarecrow. Now, think about it. There are so many options. Everything from a different color burlap for the hat to the colored overalls if you want to make them a denim or just a regular fabric. Oh my goodness, so much fun. Okay, I'm showing you this. Has nothing to do with the scarecrow, but I think I might have squealed a little when I saw these in the Christmas department at Hobby Lobby. You will be seeing these in the future in a wreath for winter and Christmas. They are the most adorable owl picks I have ever seen. So just if you're someone who likes to follow my channel and recreate my projects, pick up those owls in the Christmas department at Hobby Lobby. This is the muslin doll. It's at Hobby Lobby. It's $8.99. I'm not really sure if they ever go on sale. I just paid the regular price for mine. They're 18 inches tall, and they're a blank slate, essentially, so that you can do whatever you want with them. Those underwear, I guess we could call them, those come off. That's why I was pulling at them, just so you don't have to deal with those when you're creating your project. Very sturdy, and as I said, 18 inches tall, and I'm going to leave it the color it is, the muslin, because I think that's appropriate for a scarecrow. Okay, you're going to need fabric for whichever, boy or girl. Now, this is the fabric that I'm using to create a top and pants for my girl scarecrow. Pick a stretchy fabric that will work best. Whatever you want to use for that, you could use a print or a solid. Just pick something that stretches a little bit, helps you to conform the clothing to the scarecrow. That burlap that you saw there, that's for the hat. I think burlap works best for a hat as far as it looking authentic to a straw hat. Raffia, you're obviously going to need that. Now, you can pick that up anywhere. Amazon, Hobby Lobby at 40% off. Michael's, probably Walmart, I think. You're going to need some curly twine. You could pick that up at the Dollar Tree or anywhere. Now, I have another twine here. It's a very, it's almost like a burlap, only it's a cream color. And I do mix mine and use both on my piece. That's up to you. Just showing you a lot of options here. I do use a little bit of pitberry. I use a little bit of this and that on this piece, as you may have already noticed, but that's what creates the beautiful detail. This fabric is so cute. I got it at Hobby Lobby at 40% off. It's a little sunflower print, kind of a creamy background. Love it. I am going to put a little bit of trim on mine, just showing you some various different options from Hobby Lobby and Walmart. I ended up using a narrow rickrack on mine, but that's a wider one there. You do use so many options for this piece. You're going to need a needle and thread because we're going to be gathering up the skirt, or it's kind of more like, I think of it like an apron, but you can think of it like you like a dress, an apron. It doesn't really matter. It's just something really, really super cute that's going on my girl Scarecrow. I have here some heart-shaped wood buttons, super cute for this piece, for the girl Scarecrow. You'll need paint, acrylic. I'm using a pumpkin color for the nose. I'm using that color there, that kind of brownish color. I don't know what the color of it is, technically the name, but around that color for the shoes. Of course, you'll need white, red for the blush of the cheeks, and black for the eyes. You'll also need a fine tip paintbrush to paint on the features of your face. I have here some little sunflowers. These are from Hobby Lobby. Very pretty bunch of sunflowers. All of that florals are 40% off at Hobby Lobby. You could get sunflowers most anywhere, though. I'm going to be using a couple of pieces of white paper. You can use anything for this to make your pattern for your pants and your top. Now, that can be for either the boy or the girl. So I'm going to show you how to create a pattern. It's super easy. Now, this is, aside from gathering the skirt, this is a no-sew project. I'm showing you how I did it without sewing the top or the shirt or whatever you want to call it, or the pants. I did it very simply. I'm going to show you how it was unbelievably easy. Okay, so for the top, I'm using this fabric that I picked up by the roll at Dollar Tree. I use this on my little pajama gingerbreads too, but I like it because it's stretchy and it's a soft fabric. So you're going to need a couple of pieces of paper to create a pattern. Now, don't get intimidated by this. It's really quite easy. So you're going to kind of spread out the legs a little bit of your muslin doll, and you're just going to draw around where the pants would be on the legs and the lower body of that muslin doll. Now, this is just a rough sketch, doesn't have to be perfect, but this is going to enable you to create your pattern. Now, I'm going to take this basic pattern and widen the whole pattern by about a ½ inch. I'll show you this here in a second, but that's your basic outline of the area that you need to cover. Now, we're going to be having a front and a back to these pants, but we're going to hot glue it on. Stick with me. This is easy, okay? This is very easy to do. Okay, now for the top, same thing. You're going to trace around the arms. I put the arms out from the body a little bit to enable me to get a good pattern for this. And the same thing for this pattern. You're going to have a basic pattern, but we're going to widen it, make it bigger. In plain words, the arms will be a little bit thicker. The body will be a little bit bigger. Reason being because that doll it's stuffed, and it's a pretty full stuffing in there. So we have to be able to wrap the arms around the fullness of the arms, the pattern or the fabric. as well as wrapping it around the fullness of the legs. So that's why we need to take our basic pattern, which we're doing here, and we're just going to make it a little bit bigger by adding a 1/2 inch or so on to the size of the pattern. So you want to increase that by just drawing it over again, another pattern on your paper, and just adding a 1/2 inch. So I made mine thicker or wider in the legs, wider in the lower body portion. And now I'm just going to cut it out. Now you could do a trial run here. You can lay it over your muslin doll and just make sure that it seems to reach around, at least halfway around the legs and halfway around the arms. That way you know that you can create a seam on the sides of the legs and the arms. I hope I'm not confusing you. If you're not a sewer, you may not be totally familiar with what I'm talking about, but don't worry, I'm going to show you. So here I'm laying it down to make sure right here that it wraps around at least halfway around the legs on all sides and halfway around the body. So I decided at that point right there that it wasn't wide enough. So here I am now showing you how. Just increase the size of your pattern just by doing this. Maybe a 1/2 inch all the way around. This way you're creating a little bit bigger pattern and you're giving yourself the opportunity to fully wrap the pants around the lower body of the Scarecrow and also the shirt for the Scarecrow. Now the reason why I created pants and the top for my girl Scarecrow is because I want that authentic look of straw coming out the bottom of the legs of the pants and also from the sleeves on the arm. I like that look for a Scarecrow. I think it's very authentic. And in order to create that look, I needed to create pants and a top, even though my girl Scarecrow has an apron or a dress on. Because I need to have that raffia poking out from underneath the legs of the pants and underneath the arms, right at the hands. I hope that makes sense. But you can see here that I have widened my pattern and now I am cutting it out. Super easy to do this. I am a sewer, actually. I have a sewing machine. I've sewn most of my life, but I wanted to create this for those of you who don't have a sewing machine. And it's so doable and so easy to do. Probably easier than sewing it and trying to, fit everything onto the Scarecrow. Now, I could have done that. I could have sewn it, but I wanted it to be a project that everyone could do if you want to. Now, see how my pants fit better around the legs? They wrap around further. So that's going to work awesome. When you see how this fits on the Scarecrow and how I can just glue it with my hot glue gun, you're going to see how beneficial adding that 1/2 inch was for this, for the top and the pants. All right, now I'm planning out how I'm going to create my dress or my apron. Now that's going to be the bib. It also can be the bib if you want to do overalls. So you would just create the pants, the top, and you would create the bib to go on the overalls. It's super easy to do. All right, so I am creating this dress or apron for mine, and what I'm going to be doing is cutting out a piece of fabric. I'll put everything in the description box, all my measurements to everything, but this is 8 inches wide, and I'm showing you here, and 34 inches long. This is going to give me a very full skirt. And all I'm going to do is take a needle and thread and just weave my needle with my thread through the top of the skirt and gather it up. Super easy. Now, if you follow my channel, you saw me do this very same thing with my gingerbread tutus. Super easy to do. All right, I created 2 shoulder straps, 2 inches wide, 5 inches long. The bib is 5 by 5. If you want to do a boy scarecrow, I would maybe make that bib maybe 4 inches by 4 inches square. You might want to make that a little bit smaller, just to make it look, authentic to overalls. Okay. I think it's an important thing to do to press out your fabric. Now, this also enables you to turn a 1/4 inch of your fabric, turn it and create a fold. This is going to help you to just simply glue down the hem, because everything is going to be finished as much as possible, even though we're not sewing. So your iron is really going to help you. You get to use a heat press as well, of course. So I'm going to create about a 1/4 inch hem on the length of my 34 inches, just like that. Now, when I go to hem that, I'm just going to use Aleene's Tacky Glue, and it's going to be so super easy to do. Now, on the other side of my fabric, I'm going to create another 1/4 inch fold. And this is where I'm going to gather my fabric to create the top of the skirt of my dress or apron, whatever we're calling it. So you want to, fold that down toward the wrong side, and that's going to help you a lot when you go to create this piece. Now, we're going to use our iron again to help us with the bib. You're going to fold down maybe a 1/4 inch, a little bit less, and that's going to be the top of the bib. This is just a square piece. Again, if you want to do a bib for overalls, you might want to make this a little bit smaller, maybe 4 by 4. And then I'm going to iron as well a little fold down the sides. Now, what I'm doing here is just finishing my edges. You have to, you can't have the raw fabric edges. It won't look finished. So I iron down the top and I iron down the sides. I left the bottom because that's actually going to be covered up, so you don't have to worry about that. Now, these are the little shoulder straps. You're going to have these whether you create this, a boy or a girl. These would be like the shoulder straps of the overall or the shoulder straps of the dress. So these are 5 inches long by 2 inches wide, and I'm just folding them over to create little straps, and I just iron that. You can make them as thin as you want, fold them as you like. I created mine maybe a 1/2 inch wide. So now I have my shoulder straps, and I don't even have to sew or anything. It's super easy. Using an iron is awesome. Plus, you don't want any wrinkles at all in any of your fabrics. I iron my burlap as well. I learned this when I was in middle school, and I took my first sewing class from my very adorable and she was little, sewing teacher, Mrs. Tyree. She got me interested in being creative. And I'll always remember her inspiring me when I made my first sewing piece in middle school. Okay, enough about that. I'm going to use my Aleene's Tacky Glue to, prepare my pieces to go on. I like everything to look finished. Now, of course, I like my hat to have lots of fringes, but as far as this dress, I want that finished. Now, you can see I'm just using my Aleene's Tacky to hold down wherever I folded. I'm going to do that for both of my straps. And when I use my Aleene's Tacky, I'm careful not to blob my glue on. I basically just drag the tip of my bottle or my applicator and just barely squeeze any out, because this tacky glue is amazing for gluing fabrics. So you can see I'm gluing down those folds that were across the top and the sides. This is going to be the kind of the bib of the dress, or it can be the bib of the overall. Again, I would just create that a little smaller. Now, if you want to do overalls, you could try and find some kind of stretchy fabric that simulates denim, or you could go with something completely different. That's up to you. I just think that it might be a little easier if you use a stretchier fabric just because of trying to conform the fabric to the shape of the Scarecrow. If you're a sewer, of course, you could just sew it and you could create your pattern just like I did, but sew it. And, that's up to you. It would have been, either or simple to do, sewing it or using my method. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing, tack down my folds that I created here on, this is for the skirt, obviously. That's what we're doing now. And I'm just dragging the tip of my glue applicator along my fabric so as to not create a huge blob of glue. Now for my edge that I am going to be gathering, I did not glue that. I didn't want the glue in there to have to weave through with my needle. So I threaded a needle and I made it about maybe 18 inches long, and I double knotted it as I'm showing you here. Now that's going to keep your fabric from coming off your thread once you start gathering. Gathering is very easy. If you've never done it before, super easy. You're basically going to be weaving your needle in and out of your fabric, and then gradually gliding your fabric along the thread to create gathers. Now, I usually do about 3 or 4 stitches, and then I stop there and I pull my thread through. But you want to do this slowly so you don't create knots in your thread. This is sped up a little bit, but in reality, I do it slowly because I've learned that when you're hand gathering, if you're in a hurry, you pull your thread too quickly, you have a knot, and then you have a problem. So then you have to stop, re-knot it, start over. Oh, what a pain. Just take my advice. Pull it through slowly. Slower than you see it here. Again, this is sped up. So I stop every few stitches that I create, and I pull my my thread and gather my fabric right along that thread. Super easy to gather. Even if you're not a sewer, still very, very, very doable. Just watch what I'm doing here. Now I'm going to do this all the way across the piece. Looks like a lot, looks like a big chore. It's not. I think I had mine done in less than 10 minutes. Now, what you want to do is after you get it all gathered, you're going to kind of wrap it around the area of the body of the doll that you anticipate that it's going to set on. And you want to make sure that you have gathered it enough, or if you gathered it too tightly, you can loosen it up a little bit before you do your finishing stitch to close that off so it doesn't come undone. So this is an important part. Go ahead, gather it all the way across, then lay it across your doll. Bring it around the back. Make sure it meets up comfortably in the back. If it's not wide enough, the skirt, just loosen up your gathers a little bit. When you get to the end, you're going to do a finishing stitch. And this is just to help it to keep it from going to unraveling off of your thread. So that piece I determined was about from side to side. I actually measured it. It came out to 13 inches. So if you want to just try and go with that, the 13 inches. Now you can see here I'm finishing off with just a couple of stitches. This is going to keep it. Once I've determined it's a good width, that skirt, I just close it off with a couple of stitches as you see me doing here, and that will do it. And that skirt, again, gathered from one side to the other, is about 13 inches. And this was the perfect width of the skirt to go around the doll and meet up in the center in the back. So now we have a very cute little skirt. This fabric is so, so cute. So I'm going to finish off the edges of my skirt here by simply gluing down a fold. Now this fold is going obviously toward the wrong side of the skirt, or the back side of the fabric. Now you don't have to stitch this closed in the back. You're just going to kind of overlay it on top of each other, and then later on when I have the skirt on, I'll show you. I just put a couple of dabs of glue to keep it closed in the back, and that's all that's necessary. Now I'm closing off the raw edges there on the opposite side. Yes, I do kind of go a little crazy with those small details. That's why this video is so long, but you can pass over, scroll over anything that you feel you don't need any help with. Easy enough to do that. Just forward over whatever is, a task or a skill that you already know how to do. Maybe you already know how to do this, so you can forward over that. Okay, I decided my dress needed a little something, of course. So I'm going to use a very narrow rickrack. You could use anything that you want on here, whatever kind of embellishment that you like. I think it's a nice touch to add little details to your dress. But you do you, however you want to do it. I add a number of little details to mine, including a ribbon around the waist. I included some wood buttons. I included some rickrack on the bib or the bodice of the dress. And here you have it. I just simply glued that on, super easy. I'm going to set that aside, let it dry, snip off the excess rickrack when it's all dry. Now for the bib of the dress, I'm going to put a little strip of that rickrack at the top because I love details. I also added another detail onto this dress later on once I had it on the Scarecrow. You may have noticed I created a bow out of the fabric of the dress, but I'll show you all that in just a bit. Again, another feature, you can do it or not do it. And of course, if you're doing a boy Scarecrow, you can skip that altogether. Okay, on to the hat. This is the type of hat that I wanted to create. You create whatever shape hat you like, but I'll put in the description box how I created mine. It was 7 inches across the base, 7 inches long on the sides, and about 1.5 inches of a blunt straight cut across the top. The reason why I have the blunt cut across the top is because I'm going to be putting raffia in there. I like my Scarecrow to look authentic, and that would entail putting some raffia poking out the top of the straw hat. Now for my circle, it's 6 inches round. Find something in your house that's 6 inches round, maybe a bowl. Maybe you have a wood round that's 6 inches round. Just use that as your template. Whatever, you could look around your house, you can find something 6 inches. I did 2 of these just to have a little bit of thickness to the brim of my hat. So I put 2 together, but when I glued it about of 1/4 inch inside the perimeter of the circle. The reason why I did this is because I want to fray the edges of my hat. Now I'm going to take, oh, by the way, you're going to cut out 2 of those as well, those triangle pieces. because we're going to glue the hat together at the side seams with tacky glue. Now, if you want your hat not quite so tall, you're just going to decrease that 7 inches. Now, what I did with mine is it actually wasn't 7 inches tall. And I'll show you this here in a bit. I ended up folding mine a little bit at the bottom, creating a fold. So it gave me an extra little bit of fraying that I wanted on the hat. I love a lot of fraying of the burlap on my Scarecrow hats. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside to dry. And I'm going to go ahead and take my little hook tool. You can pick one of these up at the Dollar Tree, or you can use your Cricut one. And I'm going to pick and fray out the edges of my straw hat. Now, this is super easy to do. I use this tool to fray out also some of the edges of the top of my hat. And you can see how that frays out really nicely. Now, you could also use a regular color burlap fabric for this. This would be really cute as well. I debated on using that, but I went with the kind of creamy color because of to match the dress. Okay, here's the brim of my hat. And now I have my hat, the top of my hat ready to go. I am going to put a tiny bit of batting in there just to hold the shape of the hat. I'm not sure I showed you that, but possibly I did. But just so you know, a little bit of batting. All right, so I took a pencil and I drew the face on to my Scarecrow. I did a curly mouth with stitches, a squiggly mouth, I should say, and a triangular nose. And I did the eyes that I typically do on my pieces, 2 parallel lines with teardrops attached. I'll show you that here. You have different options. You could do 2 ovals tilted a little bit with lashes and an eyeball. This is the one I do, 2 parallel lines right down the center, and then I attach a teardrop just like that. I draw in the eyeball, add the white and light in the eye, some eyelashes, and then I just paint them. The third one is the same as the second that I'm going to show you, but if you want a closed eyelid, partially closed, you just draw a curved line through it, just like that. That's also a cute eye. Or you could Google eyes and do your own thing, whatever you like. But I always draw things on first. I don't, just start painting. So I took my pencil, which I actually was able to erase a little bit, which I thought was really cool on that muslin fabric. So you're going to need paint. I used pumpkin color of the Crafters Collection for my nose, and a black acrylic, a red, and a white. So I'm going to take a fine tip paintbrush and I'm going to go about, so I'm showing you there. I get my paintbrushes at Hobby Lobby. I always wait till they're on sale. But I love having a very fine tip paintbrush on hand to do these little tasks such as eyelashes. Yeah, nothing more frustrating than having a paintbrush that has little squiggly hairs on it to make you crazy while you're trying to create something very intricate like eyelashes. So I'm going to go about painting my face now. Now, I didn't make you watch me do this whole process because you can paint, I'm sure. But I painted in the features of my face using this fine tip paintbrush. Now, again, you could do this any way you like. You could do a straight line mouth. You could do a squiggle. I think it's very cute with kind of a squiggle line, and then add your stitching on there. I did add some little eyebrows. You're going to see me adding some pink cheeks, and I put little white freckles on my pink cheeks, which is characteristic of what I generally do on my various characters that I create. Now you want to take your time with this. You don't want to be dropping any paint on your $9 muslin doll, okay? So you want to be very careful with your paint. Make sure you don't have any mishaps. Okay, this part you want to be really careful. You don't want to have to go buy another doll to create a new piece. Okay, so cheeks are coming up. I always show this part because this is the way I like to do it. I use red paint. I use a kind of a straight edge paintbrush. A little bit bristly is best. I dip my paint and my brush in my paint, and then I take a paper towel and I just swirl it around until almost all of the paint comes off. And then I'm just going to use a circular motion and swirl that red paint, which now looks a little pinkish, to create some nice big plump cheeks for my Scarecrow. One of my favorite parts is when I see these pink cheeks show up on my pieces. I just love the look of that. Now don't forget the little white light in the eye, the little dot. I also put a little bit of a whitewash over the nose of my Scarecrow. Make sure that your face is in the midline. That's what I was pointing at there. The seams of the head aren't necessarily a good guide to go by. I found that the seams were a little bit off on mine, so what I go by is the midline of the face or the midline of the doll, if that makes sense. One of the seams on the face was a little bit further from the center on the right than on the left. So don't use your seams of the head as a midline. Use the midline of the actual ball of the head and of the doll, if that makes sense. You don't want your face off center, in plain words. So now I'm taking my fine tip paintbrush and I'm creating, I think I put like 5 freckles on my piece. Just something about these freckles on those pink cheeks that I just love the look of that. And you can see what a difference it makes in the piece. Yes, so cute. Okay, it's all dry. And I put the little whitewash over the nose I pointed out to you there. Just softens that pumpkin orange a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and paint my shoes. Now, you could paint these whatever color you like. Or if you want, you could create shoes out of felt. I was okay with painting mine. The only thing that I wish I'd done was make mine go up a little bit further on the leg. You live and learn when you're crafting. And as you go along, I create my pieces as I go along. I have a basic idea what I'm going to do on the piece. Sometimes I dream about it weirdly. And, so I have a very good idea what I'm going to do in the planning process. But once I get started, I sometimes have to deviate. And the one thing that I wish I had done was paint it a little bit further up on the leg, because I ended up having to put extra little raffia down there to cover up the area that I didn't paint. So, all right, so now it's probably the most tedious part of this entire project was creating the little raffia bundles. Now, you could do this however you want. If you want to just glue it on, cut pieces and glue it on as you go, you do you. I like to create little bundles ahead of time. So I create pieces or bundles of raffia in small amounts. And then I just take those bundles and then I create the look that I want for the raffia hair, if you will, for the Scarecrow. I use a little tiny piece of pipe cleaner and just wrap it around. If you want, you could kind of try and glue your raffia bundles together with a little bit of hot glue across the top. Or you could do the pieces individually. I think it takes a while to do that. You may want to consider this part. One of my subscribers informed me that the way to get the bends out of your raffia is to put a little dab of water on them, and that works so wonderfully. And I actually had to do it with with these pieces, because when you buy that raffia that's rolled up, it's got bends in the raffia, and you don't want that for your project. Okay, so I'm going to start creating the hair. And I'm going to do the long pieces first. You do you. I am going to create bangs, of course. But I'm going to go around the head. I don't need to take it necessarily up to the top of the head, but just around the upper part of the head, because that Scarecrow's hat is going to be resting on the head. So you don't necessarily need to cover the very top of the head. I'm going to go all the way around the head. Now, one thing that I realized, while making my pieces, sometimes you might need to add a little extra on later on, and that's fine. Easy enough to just kind of piece in pieces of raffia if you have any bare areas. Now, you can see there I created some short bundles as well. These are going to be placed on the arms, poking out from underneath the sleeves, and also on the legs, poking out from underneath the pants. Now, for my raffia hair, I do like to fringe it out as much as possible. You can do this in whatever way that you like. I just pick it apart. Any of the wider pieces, I like to really take advantage of those and string them out, because I love that stringy raffia look. Now, you'll probably be giving your Scarecrow a lot of trims throughout the process. So here's my little short pieces. Now I'm going to go ahead and glue those on. And if you're going to sew yours, if you're going to sew your shirt, you'll want to go ahead and put the shirt on, and then you could just insert the raffia underneath the sleeve. But I'm creating my piece a different way. So I'm putting my raffia on first. I'm doing the no sew method. Okay. So honestly, this is really so easy. I was shocked how actually easy this was, because it's the first time I've actually done this method with a Scarecrow shirt like this. So, I'm going to put my raffia pieces all the way around the bottom of the arm. Now, any bulky areas, any pipe cleaners poking out, if you use those, you could also use craft wire. I didn't mention that. You could use craft wire to create your bundles. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other arm, and also right there on the legs. Okay, here we have it. Okay, now I ended up later on just having to add a little bit to this. Don't worry about perfection here while you're creating these bundles, because it's so easy to go in later, and I did, and add any little raffia pieces that need to be added. Right now, what I'm doing is trimming everything up to get the bulk of everything out of those bundles. You can see there, I have like a little, you can see I have some areas that are not entirely covered, but I found it so easy later to just fill them in with just bits and pieces of raffia. So I'm just trimming everything up now with my wire cutters. Preferable when you're cutting pipe cleaners to use wire cutters so you don't wreck your good scissors. And then, of course, you can trim everything up as you go. Found that throughout this process, I just decided, it was pointless to even clean up the floor. So I just kept shoving all of my raffia pieces onto the floor. And there's my dog there off to the side. And yeah, as I went, I did a lot of trimming consistently throughout the project. So I just waited until the end to get the broom out. As you can see there, went on to the floor. Okay, now it's time for the pants. Listen, this is easy. Don't make it harder than it is. It's so easy. Now remember, we extended the size of our pants so it would wrap around the legs of the Scarecrow. And if you do it like I said, you'll be just fine on this part. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use my hot glue gun. I like Gorilla Glue, as you all know. No Surebonder in my world. I think I finally used up those insane Surebonder stringy glue sticks. You may, if you follow my channel, you know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to place my fabric. I'm doing the back first. Now, see how those pants wrap around, halfway around the leg? That's what you want. So I'm positioning everything, making sure I have it lined up, I guess, let's just call it the crotch, with the crotch. And I'm just going to start gluing these on. It was so easy. Now I'm going down the sides. I do the outside first, and then I come in and do the inner legs. And this is how easy it is to create these pants. Now, you're going to notice that if you created your pattern properly, that the bottom of the pant legs goes right over the raffia. So you just have to make sure you have your legs long enough. If you're worried about that, just cut it a little extra length. You can always cut off the excess once you start putting the pants on. So see how the pant leg wraps halfway around the leg? This just worked like a charm, I'm telling you. Worked out so great. You could trim off any excess later, gluing everything up, see? Now I'm gluing the pants on to the lower part of the body. Now I'm doing the crotch area there. Now, I would have to say, if you think anything was difficult about this piece, possibly this could be the one thing, but it's really easy if you just follow my directions. Okay, so I think we have the pants on now. And now we have our raffia sticking out the bottom just like I wanted it. Okay, now it's time to finish the pants. See how easy this is? I'm just doing the front. Now I'm just going to close up the seams on the side. And this is going to meet up perfectly if you extended that 1/2 inch on your basic pattern. And another reason for using a fabric that's a little bit stretchy is you can make it work. You can stretch your fabric a little bit to meet your seams up if you need to. So try and pick something like a knit fabric, something that has a little bit of a stretch to it. Okay, so I laid everything out before I start gluing. I want to be sure I have everything all ready to go. And here goes. I'm closing up the side seams right over my raffia, up the leg, and across the lower body. Oh boy, this worked really great. And that glue is going to hold perfectly. I wouldn't use Aleene's Tacky. I would use something like a hot glue that you'll get that immediate hold. And this will help you to be able to, adjust any, make any adjustments in the pants as they lay on the body. And as you can see here, the seams on the inside, just going to close those up. Close it up around the crotch area, and then do the other leg exactly the same way. And voila, you have pants. Oh my gosh, that was easy. Yep, I was really surprised how well this went. But if you're doing a boy, okay, this is the obviously the legs of, or the bottom of the overalls, if you want to create overalls. And then you just attach a bib to create that overall look on the top with a piece of square fabric. Maybe, like I said, around 4x4, maybe a little bit less. You could put a little pocket on it on the front. Oh, that would be so cute. And then you could choose your pant fabric and your bib fabric the same if you want to create overalls. So you could make this a boy, is what I'm trying to say. Super easy. Or if you want to make a boy and a girl, this is how to do it. Because you already have the pants. And then you just attach your shoulder straps for the shoulder straps of the overalls. Okay, exactly the same way you did the pants, this is the way you're going to do the top. So I start by doing the back side first. If you need to do any trimming, go right ahead. Now remember, if you're doing the girl, the dress or the apron is going to be over, covering up a majority of the top of this. So I'm going to go ahead and do the gluing on the back side first. See how that fabric wraps around to just about halfway around the arm. Use your hot glue for that quick immediate hold. Place it down over your raffia, and now see how your raffia looks like straw coming out from the sleeves. I got some bare areas on my head there of raffia, and that's one of those examples of how later on you can take your raffia individual pieces and just piece it. But for the initially putting the raffia on, I like to do the bundles because it creates a good bunch of raffia at a time rather than just gluing on single pieces. Okay, so you can see I have half of my shirt on now. Making sure everything is lying the way I want it to. Lifting up my raffia hair, wrapping it around the arms, and then just the same as I did the pants, I'm going to put the shirt over the front and close up the shirt of my piece. Oh my God, it was so easy. Now, if you're doing a boy's scarecrow, I would use a different fabric, of course, for the shirt, and you could just have a lot of fun with this and choose something. Try to get something a little bit stretchy, because you do want to, you do have to conform the fabric to the shape of the arms, but try to get something that has a little bit of stretch to it, but a contrasting, something different, a different type of fabric. So that adds visual interest to your piece. Okay, on goes the front, same way as the back. You see how that works? Now, if you're doing a boy's scarecrow, you're going to want to tuck that bottom of that shirt down inside of your pants so you can put your bib on. Did that make sense? Tuck the shirt. Don't glue the top of your pants down until you have your shirt on, and then just tuck your shirt down into the pants and then apply your bib on top of that. And then you have a boy. I would definitely add that pocket on the overalls if I were you. Okay, now I am gluing down the edges or the bottom of my sleeves over my raffia. Now, I don't know if you noticed, in the intro, but my girl Scarecrow is holding a bouquet of sunflowers. That doll has a thumb, which makes it really great to put something in her hand. Now, maybe you could think of something else you would like to put in the hand, or maybe a bouquet of different types of flowers, maybe some little dried flowers, maybe just some little tiny bouquet of flowers, and you could put a twine around the bouquet to hold it together. That would be super cute. Or maybe you have another idea for something to put in the hand, or maybe you don't want to put anything in the hand. I just thought it was a cute addition to the piece. Now I'm doing a little alteration up here at the neck of my shirt. And my shirt is all on now. Okay, so I need to create some bangs here. Now, I don't think I created bundles here because it was such a small area that I needed to cover with the raffia. But I gave her a whole full set of bangs, which looks super cute, poking out from underneath that straw hat. And you can see here, I'm just gluing down the individual pieces, trying to use the thickest pieces that I have to work with. I string them out, especially for the bangs. And then, of course, just trim up the bangs after I get everything on. Now, even after I applied my hat later on, I still added more. And that's the, great part of this is you could just keep adding on the raffia till you're satisfied. And there she has her bangs. And again, trimming up. Again, like I said, don't even bother sweeping up. It's just an ongoing process while you're creating this piece. You can have your hair as short or as long as you like, or your raffia, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so here's my hat. I put a little, there it is, a little bit of batting in there. I don't want it solid, super, super full, but just a little bit to give that hat a little bit of shape. Now, after I glued my hat together, I did fringe it out, as you could see. Now I'm going to take some raffia, and I didn't bundle this up. I just used individual pieces. I stuck it down in the top of the hat, and now I'm going to glue that. And I'll eventually have that glued closed. And then later on, you're going to see me tie some twine around the top of the hat to gather it. Now, notice that I fringed the bottom of the hat as well. I like a lot of fringe, as I've said before, on my Scarecrow. Now I'm going to be placing that, actually I'm going to be gluing that onto the hat, which is another reason why you need that little bit of stuffing to puff that up a little bit, that hat. Now you're going to see that I folded the bottom of my hat to create a little bit of a brim before I put it on there. Because I thought my hat was a little bit too tall. So if you have that feeling after you create this piece, you could just make a little fold in the bottom of your hat and make it shorter. I think I did that there. I'm pretty sure. Maybe I didn't. I think I played around with the idea, but you could do that if you wanted to, just so you know. Okay, so I got a lot of fringe going on my hat. And of course, this hat is going to be really embellished and super, super cute when I get done with it. So I made sure to place my hat centered on my circular burlap piece. And then when I get that hat on top of the head of my scarecrow. I can actually control the brim of the hat and make it look a little bit rippled, so it doesn't look so much kind of like a witch hat, but it's going to look really super cute when I get done. Now, this is at the point with this project where I really start having fun, because I love to dress up and embellish and add all of those little details that make a project pop. Okay, and here we go. All right, so I'm showing you there a burlap fabric, which would be great for this hat. I did take a little piece of that darker burlap, and I'm creating patches, all different size ones, big ones, little ones. I'm even going to create some out of the burlap that I created for the hat to kind of overlay them, if that makes sense. I'll show you that in a minute. Now, after I cut my little squares, that's up to you how big you want them. Then I take my little hook tool and I fray out the edges of my patches. Now, yeah, you're talking details upon details here, but those details upon details really make a difference. I keep saying that. Don't skip the detail just because it takes a little extra time. Okay, I'm going to take a piece of twine. I want to say maybe 12 inches. And I wrap it around the top. And I'm going to pull it super tight and kind of gather up the top of that hat. I think I actually ended up using 2 pieces of twine. I wasn't satisfied with just one in the end. I think I added another piece onto there. So if you want, go ahead and cut 2 pieces of twine. If you like a little bit thicker loopy bow like I do. And I leave the curly tails and let those kind of trail down. I love that scraggly look. Then I'm going to end up putting a button on there. You'll see later. Details. I secured that with a dab of glue, as you can see. And then, of course, I like that string, very stringy, so I'm fussing over my raffia on the top of the hat there. Now, I do put my patches on with Aleene's Techie Glow. I don't want that glue oozing out between the strings or fibers of my burlap. So see how when I talked about the overlay, I kind of lay one of my more natural colored burlap patches over the top of one of the darker ones. I like the look of that. But you do you, however you want. However many patches you want. I do put mine, of course, on the front and the back. I like my piece attractive from all sides. Now, this scarecrow, if you think about it, how cute it would be added to a grouping, if you will, of autumn decor pieces. Like maybe sitting on one of those little square bales of hay, if you like those on your porch to create like a grouping with some pumpkins of different colors. Oh, that would be so cute. This would be cute around a fireplace with other autumn decor pieces, or on a foyer table, or just anywhere where you want, like, a touch of autumn decor. This piece would just be so cute added. And if you had a girl and a boy scarecrow, even better. So I'm applying my patches all over my hat. And this is such a super cute addition to this hat. Now we're going to be putting a sunflower and a narrow ribbon bow with twine and raffia on the side of the hat. But I am going to add something around the base of the hat, around the triangular piece. I'm going to use a piece of braided jute cord. If you have anything like that, that would look great. You could, if you don't have braided cord, you could just use twine and wrap it around a couple of times, or maybe a thicker jute cord. But I'm showing you here, I have this braided cord. I want to say, maybe I got that on Amazon. I don't know. I've had it for so long. But I'm going to put that around, which is going to look really cute. So I cut off a piece that would wrap all the way around there, and I made the edge or the starting point of that at the very place where I'm going to put my bow, just so it's nice and clean and neat. All right, so I have some ribbon. Love this gingham check from Hobby Lobby. I also have here, I think that one was from Michael's at some point in time, a burlap colored narrow ribbon with polka dots. Yes, I like adding patterns. We know this by now, right? And so included in my bow, I'm going to have that polka dot fabric ribbon and that other Hobby Lobby gingham check. Mix your patterns. Awesome look. Along with some twine, a few pieces of raffia, and this is going to create a super cute little bow for the side of my hat. And I'm going to pop a little sunflower right in the center of that bow. Oh boy, that's going to be cute. So you can see here, I am hot gluing my braided cord around my hat. This is a nice little finishing touch. You could, if you wanted to, if you didn't have any braided jute cord, you could use a complementary ribbon, maybe a gingham check. Now, notice that I introduced another color into the piece. I didn't want it to be all that cream color and yellow of the sunflower. So I added another color in there, which is that kind of rusty orange color, just to give it a little pop of color as well. Now, if you wanted to do the boy scarecrow and you don't want a bow on there because maybe you think it looks too feminine, I still think it would be okay to pop a sunflower on that hat, even if it's a boy scarecrow. So you could tailor your scarecrows to whether it's a boy or a girl scarecrow. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is cut a couple of pieces of jute cord, and I'm just going to create a loopy bow. Oh, wait, no, I didn't cut. That was for the top. I'm sorry. Scratch that. Sorry about that. I'm creating figure 8 bows with my little jute twine. I was thinking of the top of the hat there. Sorry. I got my wires crossed there. Okay, so I created a little loopy bow. I think it was like 4 loops on each side. And I used a little piece of 26 gauge craft wire for this part to help hold my bows together that I'm going to place and stack all together to create a super cute embellishment for the hat. Okay, so that part's done. And now I'm going to do use my ribbons and create the same look, the same figure 8 bows. But I'm also going to attach a little piece of raffia in there. I'm going to string that out. Sorry, my hand was out of frame there, but you get the idea. I just cut a piece of raffia, maybe 8 inches long, and I took some wire, applied it to the center to hold it together, and now I'm just stringing that out so that it looks really cute in my bow. I know this is a long video, you all, but look at the detail on this scarecrow. So, yeah, like I said, forward over anything that you choose to. Okay, going to create a little figure 8 bow here with my very cute gingham check ribbon. Hobby Lobby has some really nice gingham checks. Narrow ribbons for autumn. I thought that I had a gingham check in like that jute color, but I wasn't able to find it. I really wanted to put that on here. But I think this one is very cute as well. So I created a 4-loop bow, 2 loops on each side, just folding my loops over like in a figure 8 configuration. Wrapping a piece of wire around the center, and Dwyn, where is your hand? Bring it into the picture here. There we go. You get the idea though. Just creating figure 8 loops. But you could do this in any fashion that you like. However you like to create bows. And then I'm going to do the polka dot the same way. I think actually kept my hand in frame here. Fold over my loops. Hold it in the center. Fold it over in a figure 8. Then I fold it under. And then I fold it over. Yeah, okay, so you were able to see how I did that. And same thing. A little piece of wire to hold that together. Now, if you wanted to, you could also come up with various ideas to finish off this bow in the center. You could add a little baby pine cone. You could add a small acorn. That would be cute as well. Or a different type of fall embellishment in there. However you like to finish off your bows, but I suggest you finish it off. I think every bow should have something in the center. Stacking up my loops now. I put my twine on the bottom. You could do yours in whatever order you like. Then I put my ribbon, then my raffia, then my other bow. And look how cute this is. Just by combining different textures, different patterns, and different colors. And then you put that yellow sunflower on there. Oh my goodness. So cute. So I wrapped a wire around there, snipped it off, and now I'm going to simply glue that bow on the side of that hat. So now I'm shaping my raffia up here, just pulling it, getting my loops, distributing my materials, if you will, opening up that bow. Then I'm going to take my scissors, trim it up a little bit. Also trim the edges or the ends of my ribbons. I like to angle. These are way too narrow ribbons to dovetail. Oh boy, that just suddenly became completely adorable with that bow. You may agree with that. Okay, right there on the side, a nice blob of glue. Tack that onto there. And then I'm going to pop my sunflower right in the middle. You could, if you wanted to, use one of those little paper sunflowers from the Paper Studio at Hobby Lobby. They have a package of paper sunflowers that are really, really cute, very authentic looking. You could do that as well. And then I'm just going to hot glue my sunflower right on the center of that bow. And look how adorable that is. Now you can keep those ribbons and tails however long you like. I like them trailing down so from the hat, so that's my preference. Very cute. Okay, so yeah, I'm not done yet. Okay, so I took a little piece of pitberry. I started off with 6 inches and then I decided I don't need that much. So I ended up cutting it down. So I would suggest just go with like 4 inches, wrap it around a pencil. Now, you could, I also had a cream colored pitberry, which would have looked great in there, but I decided to add just another little pop of color. And I created 3 of those. And I just coiled them up and I popped them on each side of the sunflower and then one coming out from the bottom of the sunflower. And this was just another detail on this very cute hat. Just pop that in there with some hot glue. And that, aside from another twine bow that I put at the top of the hat, I did add a button, which is kind of a button that looks like wood. I think I had gotten those at Hobby Lobby, but I keep small little buttons on hand, and I find that especially for projects like this, they really come in handy. I'm just going to hot glue that in the bottom there. And that really added a nice touch to that bow. Okay, so there's my little button. It's kind of a wood color, so it goes really, really well on this piece. But here's the point at which I thought, you know what? I want a little bit more of a stringy jute cord look up there, jute twine look up there. So I wrapped another piece around, just tied a little loopy bow, and then I'm just going to hot glue that button right in the center of that bow. And it gave me that little bit of extra something that I wanted on the top. Now, I'm curious to know, as you watch me make these, this Scarecrow, if you're thinking about doing a boy and a girl, because it's kind of in my head now that I want to do a boy. And just make overalls instead of the dress. Oh, that'd be so cute to have a matching set, wouldn't it? With your autumn decor. Mine's going to the Quantum House. I'm not keeping mine, but yeah, I can picture that in a display of, other autumn materials, some pumpkins and those little bales of hay that look so cute to create a little display with. Okay, I declare this hat finished. I really think it's done. I love it. So cute. Okay, time to put on the dress. Now, I decided I couldn't decide, do I want the dress higher on the body? Do I want it lower? I decided to just go right around the waist. But notice that I do the back first, because you don't want to start gluing down, get around the back and go, oh my gosh, it's short. It doesn't meet. So make sure that your dress meets in the back. Don't forget this part, okay? Now, we did measure it around to be about 13 inches, but you never know. Just be sure that you got it right. You want to close that up. Now, you're going to see me do something that I backtrack on a little bit here. Why I did this, really not sure. But I put a wood heart button there, thinking, oh, that'd be cute to have a wood heart button on the back of her dress. I ended up pulling it off because I don't know what I was thinking. But I ended up putting a kind of a burlap white stitched ribbon around the waist of the dress to finish it nicely. So yeah, don't do this part. Don't put that button there. Yeah, I had to end up peeling that off, and you'll see that here in a minute, but I'm just crazy for those wood heart buttons. All right, so I went down to the bottom of the dress right at the hem, And I just tacked that together back there. It's going to rest nicely on that piece. If you want to tack the whole thing all the way down the back, you could do that as well, but I didn't really find it necessary. So now I'm just adjusting my little gathers that are, threaded onto that thread, so to speak. Now, once I decide exactly where I want that, I'm just going to pop some hot glue down inside of there so that that skirt stays in place. See how easy it is to dress a scarecrow? Pretty simple. Okay, now I'm going to take the bib of that dress, or the, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I'm going to attach that. So I'm deciding here exactly what I'm going to do. And I have this ribbon, and I was trying to decide if I wanted to put braided jute cord across the front of the dress. Did I want to put ribbon? And while I'm thinking out loud here, you be thinking of what you might do on yours. But I do want to cover up all of those gathers. So firstly, what I'm going to do is make sure you have your rickrack at the top, because that's the way you're creating the dress, or if you put another trim, have it at the top. So I decided to put my bodice piece right on top of the gathers, and I made the bib of the dress go pretty much up to the face. Then I'm going to attach my little shoulder straps, if you will. If you're doing this as a boy, just, again, create that piece there that we just glued on. Create that smaller, maybe 4 inches or 3.5 inches squared. And then you can attach the shoulder straps as like the suspenders, if you will, of the overalls, and attach them on the back to the pants. Okay, so I'm making sure everything's all glued down. Now I'm going to attach my shoulder straps right there at the shoulder. Bring it around to the back. Make sure your raffia is out of the way and not trapped underneath. And then just attach it. I brought mine kind of to the center back. And then once I peel off, here we go. I said, okay, Dwayne, you need to get that button off of there. That is not going to work. And then I put the other one on just the same way. Now, if you're doing the boy, I would suggest you use maybe buttons, round buttons, instead of maybe the heart buttons that I used right there at the shoulder. You'll see that here in just a second. But just trying to give you variations if you want to do this as a boy. You just reduce some of the feminine touches and create it a little more boyish, if you will. So I would go with round buttons there instead of the heart-shaped buttons. Okay, so I have my shoulder straps, if you will, all attached. And I think now I'm going to put those heart-shaped buttons. Yes, I am. Now, if you create this as overalls and you create that square bib piece smaller, you'll see that it will not go up so high to the neck. It'll be a little bit lower, so it'll look a little bit more authentic to overalls, if that makes sense. So I'm just attaching everything down, and then I'm going to apply this cloth ribbon. I don't know. I think I got that at Michael's. I decided, to use that wider. It's a nice soft ribbon. You could use any ribbon here. And I'm just going to do something cute here. I actually was at the end of this spool, but I had just enough to create a nice long extra piece, about 12 inches extra on the back. And I'm going to tie a sash back there. And then here goes that button. I got to peel that off. The beauty of hot glue, right? I wouldn't have been able to do that if it was tacky. Okay, so I'm going to even up my ribbon tails there so that when I go to tie my bow, I will have an equal amount of ribbon on each side. So I wanted to have that glued down before I started gluing down all the rest. Okay, that's simple enough. Now I'm going to glue that down. Now what this does is it conceals all of your gathers and really makes that piece look finished. Details, you guys, just think of the details. And when I tell you, I sound like a broken record, I know, but don't skip the small steps. Because this is what makes your piece go from ordinary to extraordinary, okay? Now, I'm going to tie a little sash here. Look at how cute this is. Simple shoelace bow right there. That just added such a cute touch to the back of this dress. Look at that. Then I'm going to angle the tails, let those little ribbon tails hang down. Yeah, cute addition to the back of this dress. And I did take a little bit of hot glue and glue the loops exactly the way I wanted them on the back of the dress. Super cute. Angled those tails a little bit. We are getting toward the end here, believe it or not. Okay, so now we have finished off all the raw edges, if you will, of that dress so easily. And the only thing that I had to sew was to create the gathers. Okay, now I have this jute twine, but I also have that other twine, which is kind of like a cream color. It's a kind of burlap-y type of twine. I got that at Michael's. I just love it. I put the two different twines together for a little bit of visual interest, and I tied them tightly around the wrist of my Scarecrow, leaving some tails, and I also tied them around the bottom of the pants of my Scarecrow. Another detail. Don't skip it. It adds cuteness. Open up my bows a little bit to make them look cute. I like the look of tying it tight so it brings in the wrist of that arm a little bit. I did that on the legs as well as the arms. And I did the double as well, so it matches the arms. Nice long piece, I want to say maybe 18 inches, something like that. Enough so that when you wrap it around, you're going to pull it super tight and then create a bow and then have tails. Maybe, I don't know, 16 inches, 18 inches maybe a little less. And then I pull that bow super tight there, trim off the excess. Now, around the shoes there, I had to do a little bit of piecing of raffia. You can see I have some bare spots, but that's easy. That's easy to put that, to do all those finishing touches later. I also like putting that on the bottom of the leg because it kind of helps to eliminate. Do you see where the raffia bulk is there, where the pants are? It kind of takes away that delineation of that raffia underneath the pants. So I like that step, putting that on there. Now, you might be thinking, what about the shoes? They're just painted. Aren't you going to do anything with the shoes, Dwayne? Well, yes, I did. Can't leave those out. I put a lot of thought into that. I even thought about making felt shoes. I go, okay, that's a little much. That's going to be a little bit difficult. Yeah, I'm not sure what the heck I was doing here, but I'm not basically showing you much of anything. What was I doing here? I don't know. Sorry. You know, sometimes when you get absorbed in a project, you forget, oh my gosh, I'm filming. Yeah, I should be showing this. But what I decided to do for the shoes was just to create a little twine bow. And I didn't even do that by tying it. I just formed the loops with glue, if that makes sense. I just made a loop, put my twine down, and then I folded it over and created like a 2-loop bow. Just super simple, right on the top of the foot. And then, I put a button on there. One of those little buttons that looks like wood, I put that right in the center of my twine bow to make it look like the shoes are tied, if you will. So this is just getting super, super, super cute by the moment here. Okay, so doing some trimming here. Look how cute that looks. Honestly, it was worth every bit of effort to make those pants so that I could have that raffia poking out there. Okay, so I was looking at my dress and I'm thinking it needs something. As I'm trimming away here, I'm looking at it. I'm thinking right in the center, it really could use just a little something. So I decided to take a piece of my fabric that I made my dress with to create a fabric bow for right there in the middle. And I think that was a really good decision. Super easy to do. But first, I'm going to take a few of my little sunflowers. I snipped them off from the main big stem. I think I have like about 6, maybe 6 or 7 flowers there I ended up with. I'm just going to attach them together to create a little bouquet of sunflowers. And this is going to go in the hand of my little girl Scarecrow. I'm going to take a little bit of wire, super simple to do this. I'm going to wrap it around. And as you can well imagine, I'm going to put some jute twine around there and tie a bow to decorate that a little bit. Now, I actually wanted a couple of more sunflowers in there, which I couldn't get to sit exactly the way I wanted them to. So you saw me snip them off before, but I'm going to reinsert them into the bouquet with just a little bit of glue so that I can achieve that look like right there. It needed a little sunflower right there in the front. You can do these kinds of changes so easy with the magic of hot glue. Oh my goodness, what would I do without hot glue? Okay, so I'm putting it right there, and I'm just going to pop a sunflower in there because I just want my bouquet to look a certain way. And I think I put another one. Yeah, I put another one back there. And then I'm just going to be hot gluing that bouquet right into the hand, which, by the way, I think I mentioned she has a thumb. So I can pop it right in there between the thumb and the hand. And it will look like she's holding a bouquet of sunflowers to match her very pretty little dress. So I put a couple of pieces of twine together, maybe more. I think I did 3. And then I'm going to wrap it around, tie a knot, and then tie a little bow. And then I'm going to leave those little stringy tails on there. And that's all there is to it. And then I'm just going to glue that to the hand. Now you could as well use different kinds of flowers. You could use maybe some dried flowers for this. Some type of dried florals. That would look really cute as well. If I wasn't able to, I mean, this doll says it's bendable on the package. It's not super bendable because I really wanted for her to sit, and I had a little trouble getting her to do that. But I wanted to bring those arms around the front and put a pumpkin, have her holding a pumpkin. But yeah, they were a little bit stiff. That's a very well made doll. Okay, on to the fabric bow. Now I got a piece of fabric. I want to say it's around 6 to 7 inches, and I folded it so that it was about an inch thick. But I wanted the edges finished, so I folded it over onto itself so that the bow was going to be about an inch wide. So just use hot glue for this, very easy. Then I'm going to find the center of that piece of fabric, and I'm going to fold it over and create loops. Okay, so on the wrong side where the seam is, I just folded it under, and then I'm going to scrunch it in the center and create a loopy bow. So find the center, just tack it down with some hot glue. And then I believe I took a little piece of wire and gathered that up. Okay, so I'm going to gather that up in the center, taking a little piece of that craft wire again. And then to further embellish it, because you know that's coming, I put a little piece of twine and I put another one of those little heart buttons right in the center of that bow. You know what? I think I ended up not using, I didn't use the wire. I think I changed my mind there. You could use the wire, no problem with that. But I decided, you know what, I'm just using twine anyway. I may as well just tie it. So I pulled it super tight to create a gather, and then I just tied a little bow, and that was it. I didn't even need to use that wire. So I used 2 pieces of twine so that I would have 4 loops, a little more loops on the bow, which of course always adds a little something. Leaving those tails hanging down, of course, and then just popping that wood heart button in the center. You could as well, if you had like a nice satin ribbon, maybe this same yellow as in the sunflowers. You could use a satin ribbon on this as well, or some other type of fabric ribbon. But I decided that just using the cloth of the dress would look really, really cute on there. So here goes the wood heart button. Hot glue, of course. And then glue that right to the dress, right in the center, over the top of that burlappy ribbon. I did then, furthermore, I put a little dab of glue underneath the loops to get them to sit exactly the way I wanted. I didn't want them flat. I wanted them to be a little bit arched, just like that. Okay. Now we only have one thing left to do here, aside from going around and doing any fine tuning, if you will, of the details, whether it be raffia or trimming ribbons or whatever the case may be. We have to put the flowers on, of course, but then we're going to put the hat on, and you are almost done with this project. Or we are almost done with this project. So I'm just going to glue them in to conform to the thumb and the hand so it's tilted a little bit. With my sunflowers, love this touch on here. I did put a little bit of hot glue underneath a couple of the petals of the sunflower to make sure that it sits on there nicely. Okay. Yeah, I am loving the look of that. Okay, it's time to put the hat on. So I'm just going to set my hat on there and decide exactly how I want it. And I'm going to start gluing everything down. Now, I went around the hat and carefully placed glue in a way that I would be able to kind of ripple the brim of the hat a little bit. And that was really easy to do. I just stick my glue up underneath there. Then if I have any areas that needed a little touching up, the bangs or whatever, I just took little pieces of raffia and poked them in there. You give it one final look over, make sure everything looks the way you want it. I'm super happy with this piece. Loving all of the detail. Worth every minute of creating it. It's super cute. Let me know what you think of this one. And let me know if you plan to make it or do you plan to make a boy to go with it? One last look with my super cute little Scarecrow. I was hoping the sun would be shining on her this morning, but the weather had a little bit different plan. But one last look at this super cute Scarecrow to go along with all of your other autumn decor. If you're not a subscriber, I hope you will consider becoming one. Leave this video a thumbs up if you would, if you enjoy the content. And don't forget to leave me your comments and let me know what you think. Okay? Until next time, you all take care.